The story is about Misumi Makoto, who was not run over by Truck-kun as usual. He had imagined his isekai adventure differently, and complained because it started out similar to that of Uncle from Another World. In addition, Makoto learned that he is incredibly unlucky when it comes to isekai. Then we see Makoto before he was reincarnated. It started with an ordinary day, and he wanted to read a book after taking a bath. After he fell asleep, he found himself in another dimension, and a god appeared in front of him. Tsukiyomi introduced him, and he explained that he is the ruler of the realm of night. Following this, Makoto was told by Tsukiyomi that his parents are from another world. He was shocked by this, and he realized that he has never met any of his relatives. Afterwards, everything about his reincarnation was explained to him, and he had one condition before being sent to another world. Tsukiyomi was able to read his mind and made sure he got rid of his naughty secrets. A short time later, Makoto received cheat powers, and Tsukiyomi warned him, because the goddess he is about to meet has a lot of problems. Suddenly, Makoto was summoned to the goddess of another world, and she made fun of his appearance. She called him ugly and started to bully him. Then she said that he could stay on the edge of her world, and she had no intention of giving him cheat skills. He was only taught the basic skills of this world, such as speaking and reading. Afterwards, he was kicked out of her palace, and she wondered if the fall will kill him. Then Makoto thought that he is going to die, but Tsukiyomi showed up, and he was glad to see him. After this, Makoto learned that he is like Superman because gravity is different in this world. Because of this, he would not die if he fell from this height. Before Tsukiyomi left, he granted Makoto freedom in his new world, because the goddess herself stripped Makoto of his role as a hero. As a result, Makoto was allowed to live an ordinary life and landed safely on the ground. After that, he was walking in this unknown land for 3 days and his stomach began to growl. He was hungry and wondered when he would get to the next town. In the evening, he no longer wanted to go on his isekai journey because he felt lonely. Suddenly, he heard a voice calling for help, and he started running in the direction of the voice. When he arrived, he discovered a 2-headed dog and a pig wearing clothes. Despite everything, he wanted to protect Miss Piggy, and he started launch an attack. Makoto was surprised that he killed the 2-headed dog instantly with his kick. Meanwhile, Miss Piggy was scared, and he tried to calm her down. She was surprised that Makoto could speak her language, and he said that he is a kind person. Makoto tried to explain to her that she had misunderstood something, and she believed him. Following this, he learned that the goddess was sending him to the wasteland at the edge of the world. A few moments later, Emma explained that she is a highland orc and she is on the way to Divine Mountain. She planned to offer herself as a sacrifice to Shen. The reason for this was because she wanted to save her village. Makoto wanted to save Emma, but he didn't want an orc at his side as a heroine. Later, she took Makoto to a place where he can purify himself. He was given food, and Makoto was surprised that Emma was able to use magic. Then he asked if she could teach him the basics, and she showed him how to cast fire magic. Makoto also tried to summon fire, and he learned that he can control it through his imagination. After that, he was told to create a fireball, and Emma was surprised about his power. In addition, he learned that there is a level system in this world. This is how his level was measured, and Makoto learned that he is level 1. He was shocked by this, and Emma tried to cheer him up. The following morning, Makoto left a letter for Emma. He thanked her for teaching him magic. Also, he planned to talk with Shen, because he got the intention to save Emma's life. Then he did some warm-up exercises in case he had to fight against Shen. So he decided to test his new skills and activated a spell without speaking the incantation. Makoto used his flame bow and tested his new power on a pillar. He realized he was overpowered and caused a huge explosion. Then he discovered that he had injured some monsters, and Makoto found out that they were bandits who planned to lure the orcs into a trap. Suddenly, a dragon appeared in front of Makoto, and he knew he was in trouble. The dragon attacked Makoto, but he managed to dodge with his Jackie Chan skills. Following this, he activated his Dragon Ball skills and he used his Ultra Instinct. Makoto transformed into a superhero and prepared an attack of fireballs. Shen was shocked that she was injured, even though she is resistant to fire. Shen was confused, and he attacked her with his finishing move, a frog punch uppercut. However, Shen activated a spell that caused him to drown into happiness in her memory illusion. Then Makoto dreamed, and he was in his school club. His crush Hasegawa talked to him, and she confessed her love to him. But Makoto was aware that he isn't the best-looking guy. He knew something was wrong, and Hasegawa began to cry. Suddenly, Hasegawa tried to seduce him, and Shen was surprised that Makoto was from another world. She discovered interesting memories and wanted to know more about the world where Makoto comes from. Afterwards, Makoto had a strange feeling, and he knew that the dream was too good to be true. At that moment, Makoto freed himself, and he had created a space that protected him from Shen's illusion spell. Additionally, he increased his attack power and destroyed their barrier. After he freed himself, Shen no longer felt any hostility towards Makoto. As a result, she wanted to become Makoto's comrade. Makoto wanted to refuse, but she told him that she knew about his secrets. So a pact was created and Shen learned that she became Makoto's servant. She didn't think it was bad and she turned into a cute samurai girl. After that, she told him the reasons why she took on the appearance of a human. Additionally, Makoto learned that Shen became his servant because she was interested in historical dramas. A few hours later, Makoto asked if she could change her revealing outfit, but she refused. Then Shen showed her master a mist, which was a demi-plane that she controlled. Makoto entered the mist and realized that Shen didn't know where they were either. She explained that her demi-plane is supposed to be a dark and empty space. The reason for the change was the pact with Makoto. Makoto used a spell and checked the surroundings. He realized that this place is huge. Then he thought about what they could do with this space and he planned to build a town. He returned to the wasteland and met Emma, who wanted to stop him from fighting Shen. At that moment she was surprised because she had heard that Shen was a dragon. Shen showed Emma dragon scales that she had lost in the fight against Makoto. In the evening, the misunderstanding that bandits wanted to trap the Highland Orcs was cleared up. Later on, Emma thanked Makoto for saving her life and the village of the Highland Orcs. The leader of the Highland Orcs also wanted to thank Makoto, but Shen suggested a deal. The next morning, Makoto learned that the Highland Orcs will be moving to another location. Then Shen said that the orcs will live in her demi-plane, but Makoto was worried about monsters in the space. Suddenly, a little girl who looked like Shen appeared, and Makoto was shocked by her clone. So Makoto became the new leader of the orcs, and Emma was happy to have met her savior. Following this, Shen absorbed the orcs and their entire village into her demi-plane. A few days passed, and the orcs settled in well in Shen's demi-plane. Then we see Makoto, who became an avatar and could even use more than 4 elements. While Makoto played with magic, Shen watched a series on Makoto's Netflix memories about historical dramas. After that, she wanted the next episode, but Makoto refused. She tried to steal it out of his memories and hoped to convince him with her seduction skills. It didn't work, but when Shen talked about his embarrassing gamer past, she managed to change his mind. Following this, Shen planned to build a TV, and Makoto looked at his memories that Shen had recorded. Suddenly, he found a family photo. As a result, he decided that he will follow the path his parents took. Then we see a dwarf who was attacked by a strong monster. 2 hours later, Makoto learned that some orcs got a problem with a huge tree. He wanted to help them and used the power that Tsukiyomi had given him. However, Makoto felled the tree with a clean cut and the orcs were impressed. Makoto also noticed that one of the orcs was injured, and he healed the injury with a spell. Makoto learned that his skill was overpowered, and he was very grateful to Tsukiyomi for that. A few hours later, he tested Kai's healing spell on himself, but somehow it didn't work. In the meantime, Shen appeared and she held a frightened dwarf in her arms. He thought that Shen had done some nonsense. Shen explained that a particular creature had attacked the dwarf. Suddenly the monster appeared, attracted by Makoto's blood. He was shocked, and Shen warned him that it looks angry. Makoto was attacked, and he wanted to know what kind of creature it was. This is how he learned that it is called Black Spider of Disaster, which is an ancient creature. Following this, he learned that Shen couldn't even defeat the spider, and he activated a barrier. Makoto began to launch his attack and managed to cut off a leg. Additionally, he combined a fire spell with his dagger. That's when he noticed that the monster was above him, and he was shocked that it had already regenerated. He started fighting the monster, and he decided to use stronger attacks. He then shot a fire arrow at the monster and combined it with his Inferno Spear skill. The monster didn't die, and he was shocked that the monster ate his magic. Shen said that she lured the monster here because she wanted to recreate a scene from her favorite series. Makoto was annoyed with Shen and planned to use an extremely powerful spell. However, he attacked the spider again, but it still didn't work. Suddenly his enemy started a counterattack and it destroyed his barrier. Makoto was in big trouble, and the spider started drinking his blood. At that moment he became angry and used an explosion spell. He didn't feel like holding back anymore, and started getting serious. Meanwhile, Shen was amazed because she had never seen magic as strong as Makoto's. Makoto used all his strength and fainted from exhaustion. Unfortunately, the spider was not defeated. And Shen learned that the spider had fallen in love with him. Shen forced the monster to let go of Makoto so he could rest. Following this, Shen was asked about her relationship with Makoto, but she told her tons of nonsense. As a result, the spider also planned to create a pact with Makoto to do naughty things with him. Makoto got a new servant, and the spider turned into a cute girl. Then he woke up and he noticed that the injuries he had sustained had healed. Suddenly he noticed the cute girl in front of him and was confused because she called him master. After that, Makoto learned that Shen and Emma were casting a healing spell on him. He also learned that the person in front of him was the black spider. He couldn't believe he became her master while he was unconscious. A few moments later, Makoto learned that it was Shen's fault that he got a new servant. Then Baron wanted to talk to Makoto, and he learned that he was an elder dwarf. He thanked Makoto because he thought Makoto saved his village. After that, Baron asked Makoto for permission to move into Makoto's land with his village. Makoto agreed, but Shen set the condition that they must recognize Makoto as their new leader. Afterwards, Shen gave him dragon scales, and he planned to forge a powerful weapon for Makoto. In the following days he walked outside the demiplane and discovered a human village. Suddenly Shen appeared, who had an important request for him. He learned that his servants wanted a name. Afterwards, Makoto thought of a name for Shen. He gave Shen the name Tomo, and she liked her new name. At that moment, Shen started to glow, and she was very happy to be called Tomo. Following this, the black spider was excited to receive a name from Makoto. He gave her the name Mio, and she loved her new name too. A few days passed and Makoto was surprised because a bunch of new species that he had never seen before were in the demiplane. He was confused, and his two girls planned to make him the ruler of this land. Suddenly it was agreed that Makoto would be called Young Master from now on. He got no choice and took the title Young Master from now on. Shortly afterwards, Makoto was greeted by the village chief of the Elder Dwarfs. Eld thought that Makoto wasn't a human because he looked different from the humans in this world. He also asked if he was sent to this world by the goddess, and he got angry. He replied that he was not sent by the goddess, and Eld looked forward to serving Makoto from now on. Afterwards he met Tomo's followers, the Mist Lizards. He was surprised by this, and they also looked forward to serve Makoto. Following this he learned about Mio's followers, and they also got insane regenerative abilities. As a result, Makoto received an army of super strong monsters, and he said it was nice to meet them. After that he was desperate to meet some people, because he was lacking of human contact. Outside of the demiplane, Makoto discovered a pretty girl. The girl thought that he was a monster, and she ran away from him. Makoto was shocked by this, but he thought it was just a misunderstanding. When he arrived in the human village, he learned that humans in this world don't understand him. Makoto was sure that the goddess was responsible for this and was attacked. As a result, he suffered an emotional damage and Emma tried to cheer him up. Afterwards he learned that the language wasn't his problem and Makoto thought that he is ugly. Tomo explained to him that it was his mana that scared the humans. Following this, Emma explained to him how he can suppress his mana. His attempt failed and he planned to learn how to suppress his mana in the next days. A week later, he was able to learn the basics of the common language. We then see that Makoto's artifact was completed, which was supposed to absorb his mana. It immediately broke and the Elder Dwarf planned to create a more powerful ring. A month later, Makoto was still learning. Suddenly the blacksmith Wu appeared and he had forged a more powerful ring. This time the ring didn't break and he was able to suppress his mana. Makoto's second attempt to enter the human town started and his girls planned to accompany him. Then he disguised himself as a traveling merchant and he managed to enter the human town. Makoto was surprised that all the people were beautiful, but Tomo said they were just average. As a result, Makoto suffered an emotional damage again because he didn't fit into this world. Later they visited the Adventurer Guild, and the receptionist thought he is suspicious. Tomo and Mio were angry that the receptionist was rude to their master. Following this, he learned about the ranking system and was told that he can only increase his rank by completing jobs. Then Makoto said that he lost his registration card and learned that he can get a new one in Siga Town. A short time later, Tomo and Mio's levels were measured, but they were overpowered. Suddenly a special scroll was brought and the adventurer were shocked after learning that their power level is over 1000. Later Tomo learned that the strongest adventurer currently is Sophia Bulgar, the Dragon Slayer, who is at level 920. Additionally, she learned that Sophia had defeated the dragon called Lancer. Then Makoto's level was measured and he was sad because he was still a level 1. In the evening Makoto tried to rent some rooms. The price was very expensive and Tomo started to negotiate. She told the inn owner that she will destroy this place and got a discount. A short time later, Makoto wondered why the prices for goods in this city are so expensive. Then he planned to go out for dinner, and he asked Tomo to look after their goods. The reason for this was that Makoto noticed how they were being followed. At night, Tomo looked after the goods and she sensed enemies. Then we see Makoto on his way back to the inn, and a little girl appeared who wanted to talk to him. Makoto asked Mio to handle this, but she misunderstood something and scared the girl. However, Mio was lectured, and Makoto apologized to the girl that Mio scared her. Then Makoto learned that she got a request for him and he planned to take her to the inn to help her. After that, Makoto learned that Rina's sister disappeared a month ago. Meanwhile, bandits tried to steal Makoto's goods, but Tomo was already waiting for them. The bandits tried to kill Tomo, but they were no match for her. She tried to hold back during the fight, but she was overpowered and accidentally killed 2 of them. Suddenly a bandit tried to escape, but Tomo prevented it and captured her. A short time later, Tomo was lectured by Makoto. He was angry and said that next time she should be careful so that no one dies. Suddenly Rina appeared and Makoto told Tomo that Rina's big sister was missing. After this, he told Rina that she can have the dinner that he brought for Tomo. She thanked him and she had also drew a picture of her big sister. Makoto was surprised about the picture of Rina's sister and she walked out of the room. A few hours later, Makoto looked at the memories of the captured bandit. Then Makoto said that he had found out where Rina's sister was being held captive. He asked his servants to save her, and Mio was surprised at Makoto's serious face. Tomo said that she will try her best, and this time she won't accidentally kill any person. Shortly afterwards, we find out that Makoto didn't go because Rina's sister looked like his crush. He would have been far too emotional and out of rage. He would have killed all the bandits who kidnapped Rina's sister. Tomo knew why he wanted to save the girl in the picture because Tomo had read Makoto's memories. The following morning, Makoto asked Rina to drive the carriage. Also, he told Rina that she doesn't need to worry, because his servants are on the way to save her sister. After this, Rina remembered when her sister went on a mission. When she arrived home, she was injured and ordered Rina to go to Tsuki. Toa stayed in Zetsuya to work off their debts, and Rina's attempt to sneak out of the town failed. Then we learned that Toa came from a family of adventurers. One of her relatives was killed and lost their family treasured sword. Toa planned to find the sword, but she failed. Before she died, Mio and Tomo showed up and healed her. Afterwards, Mio destroyed the wall, and they told Toa to follow them. Suddenly, Zetsuya's strongest adventurer Ace appeared and asked what they are doing. Meanwhile, Makoto had sold his goods, and Rina was acting strange. Suddenly she said that she had forgotten something at home. Makoto remembered her saying that she was kicked out of her home and activated a spell. So Makoto learned that Rina worked for the bandits, and she told an adventurer that Makoto received 500 gold for his goods. Rina was forced to steal the gold from Makoto. She didn't want to do it, but she was promised that they would let her sister go. Then we see Tomo, and she asked him if he planned to save Toa. Ace laughed, and they learned that Ace is the leader of the bandits. Tomo talked down to Ace, and one of the criminals remembered Tomo and Mio. They thought that she had faked her level, and Ace asked them if they wanted to join his gang. They refused, and Ace asked why they wanted to serve a weakling at level 1. At that moment, Tomo and Mio became angry because Ace had insulted their beloved master. They started to attack, but Ace blocked it with a magical artifact that created a barrier. Then we see the inn owner, and he told Rina to go somewhere else. Suddenly Makoto appeared, and he asked for forgiveness because he had insulted one of Makoto's friends. Rina apologized to Makoto, and he did not forgive the criminals for forcing Rina to steal. Meanwhile, Tomo and Mio planned to get serious. Ace thought he could defeat them, but Tomo destroyed his barrier. After that, she started to crush all the enemies, and they destroyed the whole building. As a result, other prisoners were also freed and they showed no mercy. Mio found Ace, and she slapped him for insulting her beloved master. In the same time, Tomo punished the guy who ordered Rina to steal Makoto's money. After that, Tomo asked if Mio was holding back. She answered of course, but the two girls didn't hold back at all and almost destroyed the entire town. A short time later, Ace said that he will kill Toa. He immediately regretted it and was thrown out of town by Makoto's servants. The two then began to argue about who had defeated more, and Toa tried to calm them down. Suddenly, they started to destroy the town and no one could stop them. Later, Rina was looking for her big sister and heard Toa's voice. She was happy to be reunited with her sister and hugged her. At the inn, Toa thanked Makoto, and he was surprised that Toa looks exactly like Hasegawa. Then Makoto planned to punish his servants for destroying the entire town. He asked who ordered them to destroy the entire town, and they were thrown out the window to reflect on their actions. A few days passed and Makoto traveled with his new friends to the next town. Then we see Hazal explain to a receptionist that Zetsuya was destroyed by monsters. Makoto was amazed at how overpowered Tomo's powers were, as she manipulated the memories of almost all adventurers except Toa and Rina. After this, he learned that he had to re-register in the next town. Since Tomo had caused him this problem, he told her a story about a samurai. Tomo liked the idea of becoming a knight-errant and went on a training trip. Mio thought that she would now get the chance to seduce Makoto, but she was wrong. Rina apologized because she understood her intentions, and Mio was flattered by her words. Suddenly, Makoto sensed monsters nearby, and she asked Mio to take care of them. Mio easily defeated the red bees, and the adventurers were impressed. Toa asked Makoto for permission to collect the valuable materials. Makoto couldn't say no, because he was just a weak boy. As a result, he was given bombastic side-eyes. A short time later, they drove on, and Makoto's party was attacked by monsters several times. Following this, Toa asked him about offering transport services, and he remembered that he lied about having a trading company. Suddenly, S-rank monsters appeared, and Makoto ordered Mio to defeat the monsters. The adventurer said that she can't destroy the heads, and she refused to do this annoying task. Then Makoto planned to kill the Ruby Eyes, and Louisa thought that he was weak, but Toa replied that they can trust him. Following this, Makoto showed his overpowered bow skills and defeated all the monsters. After the fight, the materials were collected again, and Makoto still couldn't get used to it. A few moments later, they arrived in Sige. Then we see that his re-registration was complete and he was still level 1. He looked at the quests and discovered a special rank quest. He learned that Rembrandt Trading Company was looking for Ruby Eyes. Shortly afterwards, they divided the materials and he only wanted the Ruby Eyes. Then his friends were sad to say goodbye, and Makoto invited them to dinner. As a result, he received the digits from Toa and was able to use Snapchat using his ID card. He was happy about it and felt like he had caught a legendary Pokemon. In the evening, they met in a butcher shop, and Toa said that the food was already waiting for them. After entering, he discovered the famous manga meat on bone, and he was hyped up. Then he did a taste check, and he was surprised because the meat was very tender. Suddenly, Louisa asked how he learned to shoot a bow. At that moment, the drunk Hazal showed up, and Mio was jealous because he got too close to Makoto. After that, dwarf girl Ranina showed up, who was also drunk. She said she was surprised at how strong he is and challenged him to arm wrestle. Everyone watched them and the competition began. Ranina was no match for Makoto, and she was defeated immediately. Meanwhile, Mio ordered more meat and he was shocked by the amount she ordered. They had a lot of fun, and Makoto noticed that Toa was looking at him. The reason for this was that she warned him about the Rembrandt Trading Company. Later, Makoto was on his way home, and he told Mio that he had something to do. He was afraid that their goods would be stolen by robbers. A few moments later, we see Mio, and she realized that she will spend the night alone with Makoto. Then Makoto showed up, and she thought they were about to make a baby. Makoto fell asleep and Mio's plan to seduce him failed. The following morning he returned to the demiplane and Emma wondered why he was conducting himself so formally. He was lectured by Emma, and she told him to act in a manner befitting his superior status. Afterwards, Emma reported to him that the development of his town was progressing well. He also learned that the orcs planned to build him a huge residence. Makoto knew that building a residence is very time-consuming, and Emma replied that it is not a problem, because they are establishing work procedures according to Makoto's memories. Suddenly Eld showed up, and he was happy to see young Master Makoto. The reason for this was that he wanted to show him new armors that he forged with his friends. Makoto explained to them that he doesn't need an armor because he is a merchant. Then Makoto discovered a trench coat, which was a unique gear. Blacksmith Caesar explained to him that this gear is very dangerous because it absorbs tons of mana. Makoto wasn't listening at all, and he liked this protective gear. He was impressed, but the gear couldn't withstand Makoto's enormous power. A few hours later, he learned that some of Mio's followers were able to transform into humans. Then they showed Makoto fire corals, and he said that they were extremely poisonous. Suddenly Mio did a taste check and she said they tasted like Cheetos. A few days passed and Makoto planned to complete his first quest. He entered the Rembrandt Trading Company building and was greeted by Morris. Following this, Makoto was told that he did everything wrong and he was confused. Meanwhile, a guy in the Adventurers Guild asked who had taken the Rembrandt Trading Company job. Then we see Makoto a short time before, and Patrick introduced himself to Makoto. Makoto told him that he arrived in Sige yesterday, and that he is a level 1 E-rank adventurer. Also he said that he plans to start his own business. Afterwards, Patrick said that ruby eyes are rare, and he thought that a level 1 adventurer could never defeat such monsters. A short time later, he found out that they were real, and he apologized for his rude behavior. In addition, Makoto learned that Patrick needs these ruby eyes to make a special medicine. Morris explained that Patrick's wife and daughter are afflicted by a level 8 cursed disease. Makoto intended to help him, and he offered to introduce him to his alchemist friend Hazal. He was grateful for Makoto's help, and his employees were also happy to be able to save Patrick's family. At that moment, Makoto was sure that the Rembrandt family are nice people. After that, Makoto planned to register as a merchant, and he learned that he had to pass a test. When he arrived at the Merchant Guild, it was explained to him that the first test was a written test. The second would be a practical test, and Makoto learned the materials he would have to get for it. In addition, he learned that the cost of the textbooks cost 2 gold coins. He was shocked by the price, but he decided to buy it. After looking at the book, he was sure that he would be able to pass the first test with ease. As a result, he asked if he could take the test right now. A few moments later, the written test began, and Makoto realized that even grade schoolers could answer these questions. Mr. Slim thought that Makoto wouldn't be able to solve the difficult questions. He was wrong, and he had never heard of anyone scoring full marks in such a short amount of time. He then learned about the materials needed to pass the second test. He learned that he either has to collect the materials mentioned or which have the same value. Mr. Slim was confident that he would fail this time because of his low level. Following this, Makoto remembered that he is in possession of rare materials. As a result, Makoto passed the tests, and he officially became a merchant in this world. Afterwards, the receptionist congratulated him for becoming a merchant. Then we see Tomo, and she was hunting tons of strong monsters on her training trip. Tomo had killed Mr. Crab's dad, and she was planning on eating him. A few hours passed, and the feast was prepared. After that day, only 2 crabs remained alive in Bikini Bottom, and Mr. Crab's mother became a widow. Later, Tomo was told that Mio entered the memory vault. She feared that Mio would eat Makoto's memories and panicked. When she arrived at the memory vault, Tomo was confused and Emma greeted her. She explained to Tomo that Mio is translating Makoto's memories one after another. After that, Emma ordered Tomo to help them, and she couldn't say no. Shortly afterwards, Tomo planned to watch historical dramas, but she was lectured by Mio. Tomo changed the subject and asked if she had made any progress. She thought that Mio managed to seduce Makoto, but nothing happened between the two. A few moments later, Mio discovered Netflix and started watching her first series. Then we see Makoto, and he ordered an unknown juice. He also heard rumors about a giant crab, and was observed by an adventurer. A few moments later he thought he had ordered lemon juice, but it was banana juice. Then we see little Tomo plan to sneak food in the demiplane. Suddenly Makoto appeared, and he wasn't mad at her because he planned to do the same. Afterwards, little Tomo reported on the situation of the demiplane, because the temperatures have been fluctuating lately. We then learned that Makoto planned to build an illusory city. He explained his business plan to little Tomo, but she didn't listen at all. Suddenly Tomo told him about an emergency in the memory vault. The reason for this was that Mio really wanted to watch the next episode of One Piece, but Tomo had not yet recorded the next episodes on a crystal tablet. Mio got angry and threatened her that she will destroy some crystal tablets. Following this, Haruna explained the situation to him, and he already suspected that Tomo was responsible for this. After this, they noticed that Makoto appeared, but they didn't stop arguing with each other. Makoto was angry, and he said that Mio has to return the crystal tablet to Tomo first. Tomo also had to explain why the two started arguing, and she started talking nonsense. Mio explained the situation to her master, and he learned that Mio became a big fan of One Piece. Makoto couldn't blame her because he is a One Piece fan himself. In the evening he was in Sige, and his girls learned about his first job. Then he wanted to go to sleep and he told his girls that he was tired. His girl teased him and Makoto decided to sleep on the sofa. Suddenly Makoto got a message and his friend Hazal planned to help him by his job. In the meantime, his girls fell asleep and they dreamed about anime and historical drama series. The next day, Makoto met Hazal, and he was happy to help Makoto with his job. Then we see an adventurer, and he had a grudge against Patrick Rembrandt. The night before we see Patrick Rembrandt and his butler, who killed the man who cursed his family. Back in the present, Hazal was surprised that they were doing a job for the Rembrandt Trading Company. Suddenly, Patrick Rembrandt appeared and Hazal was very nervous. After this, Hazal was provided with the materials he needed to make the special medicine. Makoto learned that making the wondrous medicine was very simple. Then Hazel started the incantation, and Makoto secretly supported him. Shortly afterwards, making the medicine reminded him of Breaking Bad, and he planned to become the next Jesse Pinkman. Then one dose was completed and Morris brought it to his master Patrick. A few moments later they were finished, and Hazal almost dropped the medicine. Makoto activated his magic power to catch the bottles. Makoto managed to catch them, but he injured his head and he wanted to beat Hazal for it. Following this, Morris told them that he got bad news and asked them to follow him. They learned that Patrick was hurt by trying to administer the medicine to his wife. Suddenly Hazal said that it was probably a hindrance woven into the cursed disease. Patrick was shocked by this, and he told them the story of how his wife had turned into a monster. Makoto learned that she first caught a cold, but one day her hair started falling out and she was no longer recognizable. At that moment, Makoto asked permission if he could take care of it. Patrick didn't want to put a level 1 adventurer in danger, but Hazal explained to them that Makoto was the person who killed the ruby eyes. Later we see Makoto in Patrick's wife's room, and he was planning on using the spilled medicine. Makoto's plan to lure Patrick's wife out of a room had worked, and she planned to attack him. Then Patrick appeared, and Makoto planned to immobilize her with his powerful judo skills. As a result, Patrick was able to give his wife the medicine, and Lisa transformed into a human. Then Makoto planned to save his daughters, and he entered daughter 1's room. In the room, Makoto was immediately attacked, but he dodged and they were able to save daughter 1. Meanwhile, Hazal finished making another can of medicine, and he dropped the medicine again. Morris caught it, and Makoto was impressed by Patrick's butler. Then Makoto wanted to save the second daughter, and she tried with her last strength to warn Makoto. He didn't run away, and he was able to save the second daughter too. In the afternoon, Patrick thanked Makoto for saving his family. He thought Makoto was sent by the goddess, and Makoto became angry by hearing the word goddess. Following this, he left Patrick's property, and he was surprised to meet his girls. Suddenly they were attacked, but Tomo and Mio deflected the fire spell. Tomo told Makoto that these guys were chasing him, and they got curious. Suddenly Lime called for backup, and he offered the two girls to join them. Mio asked how much they would pay. She learned that Lime would pay 10 gold coins, and Mio decided to stay out of the fight. Makoto was glad that she listened to him because he ordered her to accept Lime's offer. The reason for this was that Makoto feared that if Mio took part in the fight, the entire town would be destroyed again. Meanwhile, Tomo was hyped up because she got to beat up 20 adventurers. Makoto learned that this is related to Rembrandt, and he ordered Tomo to barely keep them alive. Then they were attacked, and Tomo didn't plan on fighting until Makoto signaled the start of the fight. He knew what Tomo wanted to hear, and he said that she should teach the enemies a lesson. Following this, she began to fight, and she beat up the adventurers. A few minutes later, only Lime and his buddy were left. They asked Mio for help, but she refused, and one of them tried to escape. At that moment, Makoto attacked the mage, and he accidentally knocked him out. Then he tried to attack Tomo, but she dodged his attacks and defeated him. Before she killed him, she learned that he wasn't a bad person. They spared his life, and Lime told them about his actions. As a result, they learned that he was just being used, and he wanted revenge because he thought Patrick had killed innocent orphans. Makoto was surprised that Lime didn't know about the level 8 curse, and Tomo confirmed that he wasn't lying. Afterwards, Lime was told that they believe his story, and Mio planned to get all his money. Additionally, he needed to apologize, and Makoto felt kind of sorry for Lime. A few days later, Lime apologized to the Rembrandt family. Patrick was a kind man, and he wanted to forgive him. As a result, everything was resolved peacefully, and Lime decided to retire as an adventurer. Then we see Tomo, who brought a present for Lime. Makoto knew that Lime wasn't a bad person, and that he was just trying to protect an orphanage. Since Tomo destroyed his sword, she gave him a katana sword. Tomo also made him an offer to work as her spy. Lime wasn't sure about it, but he was offered a lot of money for this job. Also, Tomo said that with the money, he can protect what is important to him. Lime accepted her job offer, and he promised not to disappoint her. In the evening, Tomo spied on the Rembrandt company, and she found out that Patrick is not simply a good person after all. The next morning, Makoto returned to the demiplane. At breakfast, Emma told them that they were currently having a problem. This is how Makoto found out about the problem. Their warrior have lost confidence after training with Makoto and his girls. Suddenly the two girls started arguing, and Makoto hoped that they wouldn't destroy the entire demiplane. Following this, he ordered Tomo to talk to her followers, and he planned to visit the orcs with Mio. Later, he used his spy skills and eavesdropped some orcs' conversation. Then Makoto learned that he is the problem because he is overpowered. The orcs were frustrated that they were unable to land a hit on Makoto. Afterwards, Makoto wondered how he could solve the problem, and Mio discovered tomatoes in the demiplane. Makoto told her that she can cook very tasty dishes with these vegetables. Then Tomo reported that the lizard men had the same problem as the orcs. Makoto noticed that the various species don't exchange much information with each other. Suddenly Tomo said that she got a plan, and Makoto got a bad feeling about this. A few hours later, the orcs and lizardmen were gathered, and Tomo wanted to pit the strongest warriors of the species against each other in a one-on-one. Agares and Liddy entered the arena and little Tomo announced the start of the fight. Following this, Liddy started with a water attack. Agares blocked his attack with a barrier spell. Suddenly, Agares launched a counterattack, and he destroyed the platform. Liddy was unharmed, and he tried to gain the upper hand. He managed to injure Agares, but he used his last strength and knocked out his opponent. As a result, Agares was declared the winner, and the orcs celebrated his victory. Tomo told them that they are hopeless, and asked them why they are not stronger. Suddenly she asked Orc A to answer the question. She didn't like the orc's answer, and said that she only needed strong warriors. Makoto thought Tomo went too far, but she ignored him. Afterwards, Tomo said that they will take part in individual matches every 7 days. Tomo made this plan so that the different species would communicate more with each other and become stronger. Finally, Makoto should give a speech to motivate them. He said he believed in them and managed to hype them up. The next day, the girls re-registered in the Adventurer Guild, and Tomo learned that she was still weaker than Mio. She was frustrated, and receptionist Sarah asked Makoto for a favor. He learned that many adventurers were currently injured, and Makoto knew it was his fault. For this reason, he planned to return the favor and train Toa's party to become strong adventurers. Makoto left the task to Tomo, and she wanted to fulfill her master's wish. A few hours later, the boot camp started and Tomo gave them tasks that were almost impossible to survive. After that, they were supposed to fight dangerous A-rank monsters, and they thought they were going to die. Tomo watched them, and she decided to stop the fight. Following this, she asked Toa's party why they are charging in like idiots. She knew that Toa's party had potential to become strong adventurers. Suddenly she asked Hazal why he doesn't use attack spells. After that, Tomo planned to teach them a simple strategy. Tomo ordered Hazal to set up a trap with earth magic and poison. Meanwhile, Louisa should find a place where she can get a good view of the monsters. Shortly afterwards, the barrier was dissolved, and Louisa was ordered to attack the monsters with her bow and arrow. Not all monsters were defeated, and Tomo told Ranina to distract the monkey for a sneak attack. Then Toa should use her thief skill and attack the monster from behind. At the end, there was still one monster left, and Tomo explained to Hazal how he could kill a strong monster with a simple spell. Subsequently, Toa's group managed to kill countless high-ranking monkeys with the help of Tomo. Hazal was happy that they got stronger, but he accidentally touched some venous claws of a dead monkey. A few moments later, Tomo said that they have become stronger, and now they have to hunt hundreds of these monsters without her help. Tomo said goodbye, and said that she will wait for them at the guild. Then Sarah found out that she left Toa's party at the Shadowtail Forest. She was shocked by this because only the strongest adventurers survived there. Suddenly, Toa's party arrived at the guild and they passed their test. After that day, Toa's party became the strongest adventurers in Siga. Meanwhile, Makoto asked Mio to find some ambrosia flowers. Makoto told her that they can be found in Tinarak Forest, and he doesn't have time for it because he has something else to do. The following morning, he visited Patrick Rembrandt because he wanted to rent some of his space. Patrick planned to assist him and told Morris to find him a space for his shop. A few days before, he explained to Tomo why he wanted to rent space from Patrick Rembrandt. The reason for this was that otherwise, the Kingdom of Aeon would cause him problems, and he would receive an invitation to conduct espionage. Patrick suspected the reason for Makoto's visit, but he still wanted to help him. Following this, he told him about a neutral city that doesn't belong to any kingdom. Then he was looking forward to opening his own trading company to become a top G. In the meantime, some adventurers were walking in the Tinarak Forest and they were observed by two girls. Later we see Eris looking down on the adventurers for entering the forest. Then Aqua was asked if she had killed the adventurers, but they were just knocked out. In the evening we see Makoto and he learned that status changes didn't work on him. Afterwards, a party was thrown to celebrate the establishment of his trading company. A short moment later, little Tomo was patted, and Makoto learned that Tomo is connected to her fragment. Mio also wanted to be patted by her master, but her plan failed. Meanwhile, Tomo noticed that the residents wanted to talk with Makoto, and she dragged Mio away. Following this, Akina told him that they found the ambrosia in the Tinarak forest, but they couldn't bring any with them because another species lives there. Also, she told him that the Alkas had a lot of fun in his demiplane. She learned many new things in this place and thanked Makoto for allowing her to live in this place. Afterwards, the leader of the lizardmen Liddy showed up. He reported that he was training hard, and Makoto learned that Tomo was responsible for it. Later, Makoto told Baron that Sieg is a nice place. Baron said that he's a bit jealous of his girls because he would also like to accompany him on his adventures. Also, he wanted to know what kinds of arms are popular outside the demiplane. As a result, Makoto offered him to run the shop in Siege. Next, Orc Terry wanted to thank Makoto, and he was glad that Makoto remembered him. Terry was assigned to the next shift of guiding adventurer to the illusory city. Suddenly, he was disturbed because the other residents also wanted to talk to their master. Then we see Mio, who was sad because she wanted to talk to Makoto about the ambrosia. A few seconds later, they noticed that their beloved master's aura had disappeared. Mio thought that Makoto had died, and Tomo tried to calm her down. Then we see Makoto, who was practicing archery. Mio was glad that he was alive, and Makoto was wondering why they were worried. Afterwards, Tomo asked if he had trained with the bow. Tomo explained that he died countless times by using his bow. Following this, he learned that his actions caused him consciousness to waver. Makoto didn't realize what he had done wrong, and they told him that people can only diffuse their consciousness when they die. Suddenly, Mio started crying, and Makoto told her that he is actually alive. Tomo explained to Makoto that normally there's a limit to how much mana one can have, but his is growing at an absurd rate. Makoto was shocked by this and asked what the consequences were. Tomo replied that his mana would be increased, and he would most likely be as strong as the goddess. Makoto was shocked by the consequences, and Tomo explained to him that if the goddess finds out about this, she will most likely decide to wipe out Makoto. Then Tomo said that they need to quickly make an armor that absorbs his mana. Meanwhile, Makoto tried to suppress his mana with his Kai spell until his armor was crafted. A few days passed and Makoto was exhausted because he still had a lot to do before he could open his store. After this, he recalled the last night because Mio tried to cheer him up. The reason for this was that his girls thought he is sad since he can't shoot a bow. A short time later, he saw a bag flying and thought he was hallucinating. He asked the guy if he is alright and understood why he was mistaken for a demi-human. Suddenly, a pretty woman appeared, and he realized that he was in the red light district. He learned that her back door was open, but his girls took him with them. When he got to his room, he knew he was screwed up. He planned to run away, but Mio blocked all escape routes. They were disappointed in their master and lectured him. Suddenly, Mio asked if they weren't good enough for him. Makoto found his girls attractive, but they were like family to Makoto. Suddenly, the two took off their clothes, and they planned to do a lot of fun things with Makoto that night. He activated an ice spell and escaped through a mist gate. Afterwards, Makoto was discovered by Emma, and she wondered why his clothes had been torn to shreds. She noticed the pink spider silk, and suspected that Makoto was running away from his girls. The next morning he received new gear that suppressed his mana. Suddenly, Mio appeared in the house, and she wanted to talk to Makoto. She apologized for making Makoto angry yesterday, and he forgave her. After this, Makoto started talking about the ambrosia flowers. Makoto didn't plan on letting Mio to handle it and said they could go together. Arriving in Tinarak Forest, Makoto noticed that they were being followed. Mio used a spell to prevent the adventurers from following them. Following this, he noticed that this place is slippery, and his big brother instinct kicked in. Suddenly he told Mio to hold handsies, and Mio was happy about his words. A few seconds passed, and Mio was angry because the two forest ogres ruined her romance time with Makoto. Mio planned to let the forest ogres pay for this, and their aura caused the adventurers to find this place. The forest ogres thought that Makoto was a party members of the adventurers, and Mio asked for permission to kill them. Eris decided to attack Makoto, and he ran away from them. A woman asked why he didn't defeat them, and he realized that she was the woman from yesterday. Afterwards, Aqua decided to attack, and she fired fire missiles at Makoto and the adventurers. Then he wanted to try to talk to the forest ogres, but Mio was still furious. He had no choice but to retreat, otherwise Mio would kill the forest ogres. Suddenly he heard Tomo's voice and asked her for help. She demanded the reward to pursue katana making and rice farming. Following this, Tomo told him how he can calm Mio down. First, he pretended to burn the adventurers in order to send them to his illusory city. Then he wounded himself in order to feed Mio her favorite food. She began to lick Makoto and slowly came back to her senses. Mio was able to think clearly, and he asked if she could fight. When Arena cast an ice spell, Mio used her dark magic to consume Arena's mana. Following this, he cast a light spell and destroyed the weapons of the girls. Meanwhile, the adventurers were confused, and little Tomo welcomed them to Illusory City. A few moments later, Makoto explained to the forest ogres that he wasn't a thief. He was able to clear up the misunderstanding, and they planned to lead him to their village. Arriving at their village, Makoto noticed that the entire village was surrounded by a concealing barrier. Makoto was taken to a house, and Nilgastori, the representative of the elders, welcomed him. He told them that they aren't elves, and Mio was surprised about this. Suddenly, Adano appeared, and he looked grimly at Makoto. Following this, he explained that forest ogres are the ancestors of the elves. Also, he learned that the barrier surrounding the forest was weakened, and Adano thought Makoto was suspicious. He didn't trust him, and Nilgastori apologized for his son's rude behavior. Later on, Aqua told them that they are going to prepare a feast, and they want to introduce him to their master. Eris said that he would only hurt a little, and he knew he was screwed up. Suddenly, a guy showed up to greet the guests in the village. Makoto learned that the guy was the master of the two girls. He heard about Makoto's strength and wanted to shake his hands. Mondo immediately sensed that Makoto was not an ordinary person. Suddenly, Mio became jealous because he had held Makoto's hand for 32 seconds. She punched him out the house and said that he deserved to die because she only got to hold Makoto's hand for 31 seconds. Then we see Mondo, who was surprised by the encounter with Makoto, and he started laughing. A few hours later, Makoto asked Mio to spy on two people. Mio immediately set off, and she noticed that her master seemed to be exhausted. Then Mondo was secretly watched by Mio. She was surprised that he was unharmed, and she sensed a powerful earth mana around his body. Suddenly, something caught in the threads that she strung up in the village. Adano was talking with demons, and Mio planned to tell Makoto about this. Makoto was surprised and asked Mio to swap with Tomo in the demiplane. In the evening, a party was held for Makoto, and he enjoyed the show. Suddenly, he spotted Adano talking to Mondo. Mondo began choking Adano, and a monster appeared from his body. Makoto asked why he killed the two forest ogres. He replied that only one is dead because Adano was in contact with troublesome creatures. Then Makoto said that he knows that the monster in front of him is a lich. The monster was impressed, and he planned to kill Makoto with a strong curse. Unfortunately, status change had no effect on Makoto. He then launched a counterattack and defeated the monster. Makoto said that he doesn't have to worry because he won't kill him. Then Tomo appeared, and he told her to teleport this lich to the demiplane. A few moments later, Makoto learned that the forest ogres planned to execute him. Meanwhile, Tomo was surprised to see Nilgastori, who asked her to create the barrier around the forest. Also, she told them that she is the servant of Makoto, and they realized that they screwed up. Following this, the skeleton was asked why he became an immortal. He explained that he wanted to become a Grant because they are superior to humans in everything. Afterwards, the skeleton learned that Makoto was able to use powerful dark magic. He knew that no ordinary person could do this and became rude. Tomo and Mio didn't allow him to insult their master, and Makoto calmed his girls down. Then Makoto asked him if he can borrow some spellbooks, and he was shocked after learning how Makoto learned to cast magic. After this, Tomo found out that the guy wanted to become a Grant to find out if another world existed. The reason for this was that it was rumored that Grants were able to travel between different worlds. Tomo said that it wasn't possible, and he had misunderstood something. She explained to him that people who have successfully traveled to another world are called Grants. Suddenly, Makoto asked if there was a way to travel between worlds, and Tomo said that the chance of surviving traveling to other worlds is very risky. After the misunderstanding was cleared up, Tomo tried to convince him to become Makoto's servant. Makoto understood his desire, and he looked forward to have him as his servant. Then we see the adventurers, and they got the idea to steal the demiplane's treasures. Meanwhile, little Tomo and Hokuto were on their way to a storage warehouse to stow a box full of gear. Then we see Makoto again, and he makes a pact with the skeleton to make him his servant. After the pact was completed, the guy regained his human form. Makoto was shocked that before he became a skeleton, he was a handsome guy. The handsome guy was happy to become Makoto's servant and thanked him. Suddenly, Tomo felt terrible pain and they heard an explosion. The explosion caused the ground to shake and they were shocked by it. Meanwhile, Tomo was seriously injured and she fell unconscious to the ground. Makoto told Mio to stop the bleeding and he planned to heading to the site of the explosion. Along the way, Makoto learned that his new servant had no stamina because he wasn't used to his new body. Afterwards, Makoto learned that he could cast healing magic. When he arrived at the scene of the accident, he learned that two of his comrades were no longer breathing. At that moment, he recognized the feelings when his beloved cat died. Suddenly, Makoto's servant said that the two in front of them are not dead yet, and he needed Makoto's support. Makoto didn't intend to let his comrades die, and he came up with an idea to double the power of his healing. As a result, Hokuto started breathing, and Makoto was glad about it. Then an orc girl showed Makoto a pendant that belonged to Terry. She showed Makoto the direction and said that Terry was trying to stop the humans. When he arrived, he sensed an adventurer on the other side of the mist gate. Makoto tried to enter the mist gate, and he could see the memories of one of the adventurers. Makoto's comrades tried to stop the thieves, but they didn't hesitate to be violent. Then he learned that a ring exploded, and little Tomo died by trying to save everyone. Meanwhile, Sarah was in the illusory city, and she was wondering where she ended up. Suddenly, Makoto appeared behind her, and he was in a bad mood. Sarah was surprised to see him, and she talked down to him because she thought he was a demi-human. He was disgusted with the people of this world because they looked down on other species. Meanwhile, Sarah was scared and threatened to kill Makoto. Makoto wasn't afraid of her because he was angry that she killed Terry. Suddenly, Sarah attacked, but Makoto blocked her attack and cut off her arms. Makoto looked down on her and said that she would pay for killing his comrades. At that moment, Sarah asked for forgiveness, but Makoto couldn't forgive her. As a result, he killed someone for the first time, and he started crying. After this, he realized that he did not feel anger, but rather sadness for losing beloved comrades. The next day, they held a memorial service for Terry and Tomo's fragment. A bonfire was lit, and a banquet is held to mourn their deaths. Then Makoto tried to pull himself together and pretended to be fine. A few days later, his girls learned that their master had named his new servant Shiki. Following this, Makoto told him that he had seen the adventurer's memories, and Tomo immediately understood his worries. Makoto thought that by forming the contracts with his servants, he became a monster. Tomo laughed at him, and he learned that in a contract of control, no part of the servant enters the master's body. In addition, he learned that he can use his servant's powers without any concerns. Then Makoto learned that he could use Tomo's abilities because they got a strong connection with each other. Mio became jealous, and she started arguing with Tomo. Tomo said that she is Makoto's servant number 1, and their bond is special. She was very proud of her bond with their beloved master and teased Mio. Meanwhile, Shiki was sad because he has only known Makoto for a short time. A few days later, Makoto told Emma that he planned to set up a special division and take countermeasures to prevent weak people or children from coming into contact with the adventurers. Also, he asked Mio's followers to pretend to be adventurers in the illusory city. The reason for this was that he never wanted to let such a tragedy happen again. Following this, Makoto was shown the blueprint of the new storage warehouse. He looked over it and entrusted Baron with the construction work of this new warehouse. In the evening, he visited the orcs, and he apologized to Terry's father because he couldn't protect his son. But he wasn't angry at him and didn't blame Makoto for this tragedy. Later, Makoto thought about the demiplane's future, and he made up his mind. The next day, he visited his business partner Patrick, and he was surprised to see a map of this world. Patrick explained to Makoto about the territories of the different nations. Afterwards, Makoto thanked Patrick for his help. He also decided to reveal his face to Patrick. Patrick and his butler were surprised, but he said that his trust in Makoto is still the same. In the afternoon, he explained to his girls that Shiki would accompany him on the next mission. The reason for this was that Shiki was a former human and he wanted to prevent the girls from destroying a town. Also, he planned to study magic and learn more about this world. Makoto knew that the girls would be bored without him and gave them parting gifts. They learned that he had saved their favorite series on the crystal tablets. Then Makoto learned that Tomo offered the forest ogres to live in their demiplane. In the afternoon, Makoto planned to leave and he said goodbye to his friends. Makoto was looking forward to his next adventure, but he was discovered by the goddess. The goddess sent him to a battlefield and he was confused. He sensed that a person was sneaking up on him and someone attacked him. Then Makoto realized that his fingers were cut off, and he understood that the woman in front of him is dangerous. He tried to calm himself down, and learned that the goddess had put him in this situation. After that, he tried to make contact with his servants, but Sophia attacked him. Makoto learned that his barrier couldn't completely block Sophia's attacks. Afterwards, Makoto wanted to know who his enemies were and why he was attacked. The reason for this was that Sophia and his partner sided with the demons. Makoto was confused, and he learned that he had been teleported to a battlefield. He was shocked that he got caught up in the war between humans and demons. Afterwards, he considered running away, but he knew it would be suicide. He decided to distract them and cast a fire spell against them. Makoto then tried to escape, but the enemies had no intention of letting him escape. Meanwhile, Sophia understood that Makoto is not a weak opponent, and she was excited to fight him. Sophia was impressed by Makoto, and they thought that he had received the goddess protection. As a result, they used a magical artifact to nullify his divine blessings. Meanwhile, Makoto was angry, and he tried to explain that the goddess hates him. Lancer thought he was lying, and Makoto replied that he didn't know why the goddess sent him to the battlefield. And he learned that the two were the strongest adventurers in this world. Makoto tried to explain to him that he is an ordinary merchant. But Sophia wanted to kill him, and Makoto planned to get serious. Suddenly, the two looked down on Makoto, and he decided to show his true power. After removing his rings that suppressed his mana, he caused a huge explosion. His opponents couldn't see him, but Makoto knew where his enemies were. Then he planned to use his new weapon. First, he shot at his opponents with his fire bow, and Sophia couldn't block it. They were overwhelmed by Makoto, and he had no intention of stopping the attacks. Suddenly, Makoto attacked with water magic, and Lancer tried to block his attack with a water barrier. But Makoto's spell was more powerful, and his opponent was weakened. Then we see Sophia, who tried to kill Makoto with a strong attack. Makoto countered, and he managed to destroy Sophia's sword. Suddenly, Sophia appeared behind him, and Makoto was held, while Lancer teleported them both into the air. Once in the sky, Sophia let go of him, and they were sure that Makoto would die when he fell to the ground. Makoto didn't intend to lose, and he destroyed the obstacles in the sky with fire magic. After that, Makoto was angry at the two, and he shot a powerful water spell at them. He used the power of his rings that had absorbed his mana and combined it with his water bow. Before his attack landed on the ground, he used a mist gate to escape. A few moments later, we see Sophia and Lancer, who barely survived Makoto's attack. The following morning, Makoto woke up and his girls were lying next to him. He learned that his injuries were healed by Tomo and Mio. Following this, Patrick was reading the newspaper, and it was saying that the explosion a few days ago was caused by the goddess' third disciple. Later, Makoto told his servants about his fight, and Shiki suspected that the goddess wanted to force him to fight the demons. After that, Makoto said that he plans to go to the academy to study magic. He also knew that the goddess could interfere with his plans again. For this reason, he decided to keep Mio and Tomo hidden from her, because they are his trump cards. Following this, Tomo wanted to introduce her master to someone. Makoto was surprised to see little Tomo, and he learned that she is a new fragment. Makoto was happy to meet the new little Tomo, and he gave her the name Komo. After this, Tomo told him that she is practically his child, because she's a product of Tomo's and Makoto's mana. A few days later, a boot camp was started so that the warriors could become stronger. The new residents were exhausted and wanted to quit. Eris ran away, and she thought that bananas were poisonous, but she was wrong and noticed that they taste delicious. Then we see Akina, who pretended to be an adventurer because she got the task to spy on their customers. Afterwards, we learned that Makoto's store in Siga has also opened. A human complained that only demi-humans worked in Makoto's store. Suddenly, Baron looked at the adventurer's weapon and he repaired it. Mio showed him that Baron was a talented blacksmith, and they tried to convince customers to buy their goods. Makoto's shop quickly became very popular, and all adventurers couldn't resist the cheap prices of the goods. We then see Aqua, and she managed to calm down the angry adventurer. Meanwhile, Makoto's friends also found out about his shop, and Patrick was impressed by Makoto. Makoto's business was a complete success, and it seemed that everyone was happy with the goods. In the days that followed, everything went peacefully, and Makoto learned that there are two heroes in this world who come from his world. He didn't plan on meeting them for now, and he decided to learn more about this world. Suddenly, Emma appeared and said that they had prepared a farewell party for him. At that moment, Makoto realized that he had experienced many things since his arrival. He had made many friends and loved his current life. Furthermore, his life was never boring because of his servants.